The package wasn't supposed to come to my door, but when I signed for it and saw my husband's name, Dr. Robert Chen, 847 Maple Drive, I assumed the delivery driver made a mistake with the address numbers because we live at 487 Maple Drive, and I'm Patricia Chen, 65 years old. Married 38 years to Robert, who works as a cardiologist at Seattle General, and when I opened that box expecting medical journals or conference materials, I found a smartphone I'd never seen before buzzing with text messages from Emma saying, "Can't wait to see you Friday, the kids miss their daddy." And that's when I realized my husband of 38 years, father of my 2 grown daughters Sarah and Michelle, had another family living 7 blocks away from our home in the same Seattle neighborhood where I'd raised our children, planted my garden, hosted Christmas dinners, and believed I knew every corner of my life. I'm sitting here now at 73 years old, 8 years after that package arrived, and I need to tell you what happened when I discovered my husband's double life. Not the version where the betrayed wife falls apart and plays victim, but the version where 2 women who should have been enemies became partners who built something neither of us could have created alone. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you introduces you to the best person you'll ever meet. That Thursday afternoon in March 2016, I stood in my kitchen holding that phone like it was a live grenade. The screen kept lighting up with messages. "Robert, don't forget Lucas has soccer practice at 4. Honey, can you pick up milk on your way home? Love you, see you tonight." I watched those messages arrive in real time, each one a small bomb detonating in the life I thought I knew. My first instinct was to call Robert immediately, scream into the phone, demand answers, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was the 38 years of marriage teaching me to think before reacting. Or maybe it was pure survival instinct whispering that knowledge is power and I needed to understand the full scope of this betrayal before confronting it. I sat down at my kitchen table, the same table where we'd had thousands of family dinners, and I started reading. The phone wasn't password protected. Why would it need to be? It was supposed to be delivered to his other address. I scrolled through months of text messages, photos, calendar appointments. And slowly, methodically, the parallel universe my husband had been living revealed itself. Emma Parker, 42 years old, dental hygienist. They'd met at a medical conference 15 years ago when I'd stayed home with our daughters who had the flu. She lived at 847 Maple Drive with their 2 children, Lucas, 13, and Olivia, 11. In the photos, they looked like a normal family: birthday parties, beach vacations, school plays. Robert smiling the same way he smiled in our family photos. The calendar on that phone showed a pattern: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, home with P, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Home with E. Sundays he alternated, claiming hospital shifts or golf with colleagues depending on which family he was avoiding. I learned he'd told Emma the same story he'd told me, that his work as a cardiologist required irregular hours, overnight shifts, conference travel. She believed him just like I'd believed him. For 15 years we'd both been living half-lives, each of us thinking we had a devoted husband who just worked too much. The shock wore off sometime around midnight. I'd spent 9 hours reading every message, examining every photo, mapping out every lie. Robert had texted me around 6 p.m. saying he was stuck in surgery, going to be another late night. I'd responded with, "Okay, honey, be safe," like I'd done hundreds of times before. But now I knew he wasn't in surgery. He was at 847 Maple Drive having dinner with Emma, Lucas, and Olivia. I should have been crying. I should have been breaking dishes or drinking wine or calling my daughters in hysterics. Instead, I felt ice-cold clarity. This wasn't just an affair. This was a meticulously constructed double life. This required planning, coordination, financial manipulation. This was sociopathic-level deception. And I realized something else. I couldn't be the only victim here. Emma Parker thought she had a devoted husband. Lucas and Olivia thought they had a present father. They were being lied to just as much as Sarah, Michelle, and I were. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going to confront Robert, not yet. First, I needed to talk to Emma. The next morning, Friday, I waited until Robert left for work around 7 a.m. Then I drove the 7 blocks to 847 Maple Drive. It was a nice house, similar to ours, 2-story craftsman with a front porch, garden in front. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes, watching. Around 8:15, Emma emerged with two kids, loading them into a Honda SUV, driving off to school. I waited until 9 a.m., then knocked on her door. Emma Parker answered, looking exactly like her photos, pretty woman with auburn hair, warm smile that faltered when she saw a stranger at her door. "Can I help you?" "My name is Patricia Chen," I said, my voice steady despite my pounding heart. "I'm Robert's wife, the other one." Her face went through several transformations in 5 seconds: confusion, disbelief, understanding, horror. She grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. "What, can I come in?" I asked. "We need to talk." She let me in, moving like a sleepwalker. Her living room was cozy, lived in, photos of Robert with Lucas and Olivia on the mantel. I recognized the sailboat in the background of one photo. Robert had told me it belonged to a colleague who took him sailing. Apparently that colleague was himself. Emma sat down heavily on the sofa. "You're Patricia, he's talked about you. He said you were divorced, that it was amicable, that you stayed friends for the sake of your kids." "We're not divorced," I replied, sitting across from her. "We're very much married, have been for 38 years. We have 2 daughters, Sarah and Michelle, and until yesterday afternoon I had no idea you existed." I showed her my wedding ring, matching the one Robert wore when he was at our house. I showed her photos on my phone of Robert and me at Sarah's wedding last year, at Michelle's graduation, at Christmas dinner. Emma's face crumbled. No, this isn't possible. We've been together 15 years. We have children together." "I know," I said gently. "Lucas is 13, Olivia is 11. I've seen their photos, they're beautiful." "How did you find out?" she whispered. "A package meant for your address was delivered to mine. It had his phone, the one he uses for you." She started crying then, silent tears running down her face. 15 years, I've given him 15 years, how is this possible?" "How did I not know?" "Because he's extraordinarily good at lying," I said. "He convinced both of us we had a husband who just worked too much." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Emma looked up at me and I saw something shift in her expression. The devastation was still there, but underneath it was something harder, anger. "What are we going to do?" she asked. Not "what are you going to do?" Not "please leave my family alone." She said I have an idea," I replied. "But first I need to know, do you want revenge or do you want justice? What's the difference?" Revenge is emotional, quick, satisfying in the moment, but ultimately hollow. Justice is methodical, complete, and leaves you with something to build on afterward. Emma wiped her tears, her jaw setting. "I want justice." "Good," I said. "So do I." Over the next 3 weeks, Emma and I became unlikely partners in the most thorough investigation either of us had ever conducted. We met daily while Robert was at work, comparing notes, sharing documents, unraveling the massive web of lies he'd constructed. The financial deception was staggering. Robert had been maintaining 2 households for 15 years. We discovered he'd been systematically diverting money from our joint accounts, from his practice, even from our daughter's college funds. He had multiple credit cards neither Emma nor I knew about. He'd told Emma he was paying alimony and child support to me. He'd told me he was making investments and charitable donations. We found plane tickets to Hawaii, where he'd apparently taken Emma and the kids, the same week he'd told me he was at a medical conference in Boston. We found receipts for birthday presents he'd given both families, restaurant charges from date nights with both of us on the same weekend, hotel stays for conferences that didn't exist. But more than cataloging the lies, Emma and I were discovering something unexpected. We actually liked each other. Under different circumstances, we might have been friends. We had similar senses of humor, shared interests in gardening and old movies, similar values about family and honesty. "It's so weird," Emma said one afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table going through bank statements. "I should hate you, you're the wife, the one he cheated on." "And I should hate you," I replied. "You're the mistress, the other woman." We looked at each other and started laughing, the kind of slightly hysterical laughter that comes from emotional exhaustion. "Except neither of us are those things," Emma said. "We're both just women he lied to." "We're both Mrs. Chen," I agreed. "Legal wife and common-law wife, both his family. Both his victims." "How is he going to react when he finds out we know?" Emma asked. "I've been thinking about that," I said, "and I think we need to be strategic. If we confront him separately, he'll try to play us against each other. He'll tell me you're crazy, he'll tell you I'm bitter. So we confront him together." "Exactly. We chose a Saturday evening in April. Robert was supposed to be at our house that night. I texted him around 5 p.m., emergency plumbing issue, house flooded, staying at hotel tonight, meet me at the Westin downtown room 412. He texted back concerned messages, called twice, played the devoted husband perfectly. Emma did the same thing from her end, creating her own emergency that required him to meet her at the same hotel, same time. At 7 p.m., Robert knocked on the door of room 412. I opened it. His face showed confusion. He'd expected Emma based on the text thread. "Patricia, what are you doing here?" I thought. "Come in, Robert," I said, stepping aside. He entered, and that's when he saw Emma sitting in the chair by the window. The color drained from his face. He looked between us, mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. "I can explain, please do," I said, closing the door behind him. "Emma and I have been trying to figure it out for 3 weeks. We could use your insight." He tried everything. Denied it initially, "This isn't what it looks like." Then minimized, "It just happened, I never meant to hurt anyone." Then blame shifted, "You were both so demanding, I felt torn." Then promises, "I'll end it, I'll make this right, just give me a chance." Emma and I sat there, side by side on the hotel bed, and watched a man we'd both loved reveal himself to be exactly who we'd discovered he was. A liar, a manipulator, a man so narcissistic he'd built 2 families and convinced himself he deserved both. "We're not here for your explanations," I finally said. "We're here to tell you what happens next." We laid it out for him. Emma and I had consulted with lawyers separately to avoid conflict of interest, but with shared information. I would be filing for divorce. Emma would be filing for child support and potentially fraud charges for the money he'd diverted. We had documented everything, every lie, every dollar, every instance of deception. We'd also contacted the medical board. His conduct, while not technically malpractice, raised serious questions about his character and judgment. His hospital privileges might be reviewed. "You're destroying my career," he said, his face red with rage now that the masks had fallen away. "My reputation, my life." "You destroyed your own life," Emma said quietly. "We're just refusing to let you keep destroying ours." "And here's the thing, Robert," I added. "If you fight us, if you try to play games in court, we go public. Every newspaper, every social media platform, the full story, the cardiologist with 2 families. Think about how that plays in Seattle." His shoulders slumped. He knew he was beaten. The divorce took 8 months. Emma's legal proceedings took 6. Robert lost his position at Seattle General not officially because of the scandal, but because the stress and scrutiny made his position untenable, according to the official statement. He moved to Portland, started over at a smaller practice, lives alone now. But here's the interesting part, the part that made this story worth telling. Emma and I didn't just part ways after achieving justice. We stayed friends. Real friends. It started practically. We both needed jobs. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for decades. Emma had been working part-time around the kids' schedules. We started talking about what came next. "I've always wanted to open a plant nursery," Emma said one day. "I have my horticulture degree from college, but I never used it." "I've been gardening for 40 years, I replied. "I have notebooks full of propagation methods, soil mixtures, seasonal planting guides." We looked at each other, and the idea sparked simultaneously. 6 months after Robert moved to Portland, Emma and I opened Growing Together, a plant nursery and garden center in Seattle. We used my divorce settlement as startup capital. Emma contributed her expertise and energy. We hired Lucas and Olivia part-time after school. Sarah and Michelle invested and helped with marketing. The first year was hard. Starting a business in your 60s and 40s respectively is terrifying. But we'd already survived something harder than business challenges. We'd survived betrayal and come out stronger. 5 years later, Growing Together has 2 locations, 15 employees, and a thriving online presence. We give talks at gardening clubs, host workshops, sponsor community garden projects. Sometimes customers ask about our story. 2 women who aren't related, don't look alike, but work together with an ease that suggests deep history. "We're family," Emma always says, and it's true. My daughters Sarah and Michelle were shocked initially when I told them I was going into business with Dad's other wife. But once they understood the full story, they became supportive. They've embraced Lucas and Olivia as half-siblings. We have combined holiday dinners now. The kids call it the expanded Chen family. Robert still pays child support for Lucas and Olivia. He has limited contact with all 4 kids. They're polite to him but not close. Actions have consequences. I'm 73 now. Emma is 50. We have coffee together every morning before opening the shop, comparing notes on what needs to be done that day, gossiping about our customers, planning expansion ideas. Sometimes I think about that Thursday in March 2016 when the wrong package arrived at my door. If the delivery driver hadn't mixed up the numbers, if I'd never found that phone, I would still be living half a life, believing in a marriage that didn't exist. That phone was supposed to destroy me. Instead, it saved me. It introduced me to Emma, who's become the best friend I've ever had. It pushed me to rebuild my life in ways I never imagined. It taught me that the worst betrayal can lead to the best transformation if you're willing to be strategic, be patient, and be open to unlikely alliances. Emma says I saved her too. Before you knocked on my door, she told me recently, I was living in a fantasy. You brought me into reality, and reality, as hard as it was, turned out to be better than the dream. People sometimes ask if we forgive Robert. The honest answer is that forgiveness isn't the right word. We don't waste energy hating him, but we don't absolve him either. He made choices. We made choices. We chose to survive and thrive. He chose to lie and lost everything. I learned something important through all this. Betrayal doesn't have to define you. The person who hurts you doesn't get to write the ending of your story. Emma and I took the worst thing that happened to us and alchemized it into something beautiful, a friendship, a business, a new chapter of life that neither of us would have chosen but both of us treasure. If you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed you in ways you didn't think possible, I want you to know this: you're stronger than you think. The pain is real, but it's not permanent. And sometimes, in the wreckage of what you thought your life was, you find pieces of something better. Let's support each other. Hit that subscribe button and join this community that turned out to be stronger than anyone ever thought. So, the wrong package arrived at my door 8 years ago. It turned out to be the right package after all, delivered at exactly the moment I needed to wake up, stand up, and build the life I deserved. And that garden center we built. We named it Growing Together because that's exactly what Emma and I did. We grew from betrayal. We grew through pain. We grew together, tuned in to watch the next story, and don't get depressed in your current situation. This time shall also pass, and better will come soon. Take care. See you in the next video.